welcome to another episode of 30 Minutes in the New Testament. 30 Minutes in the New Testament is a 1517 podcast network podcast. You can go to 1517.org/podcast and check out all the other podcasts that are living over there. And while you're over there, make sure you check out everything else that 1517 is doing. All those articles, all those academies. Come to an event. We'd love to see you out there. Not the one that's coming up immediately. It's sold out. but
because it's sold out.
I mean, we would love to see you there, but
I would love to see you there, but I won't if you don't have a ticket. But maybe a different one. Go to the events page, and you'll see like we have events, but then also like we got people going out, and you might not know that Scott or Eric or Chad or whoever is out there, like maybe near you, speaking somewhere, and maybe we didn't really promote it on one of our podcasts or anything. But if you go to the speakers page, like you never know, man. I mean, there might be someone speaking somewhere in your neighborhood this weekend. You wouldn't know. So go check that out.
I've got two coming up, but I'm not sure that they're public. Is the one up north public, Eric?
I think so. Yeah,
okay.
One at Cornerstone.
And go see where Scott's speaking. Check it out.
There'll be 700 dudes there. That's a men's night thing.
I'm pretty sure the Northern Illinois District Pastors Conference is not public.
Probably not.
Yeah.
But hey, if you're a man and you want to hear Scott speak, apparently
just head on over to Chowchilla.
Yeah, baby.
Go. Chowchilla. Go do it. All right. We are in Matthew chapter 26. We have the subheading here, the plot to kill Jesus. Now, we've been saying for a while now that Jesus is out to achieve this very goal. And he has cleansed the temple. He has condemned the religious leaders. He's told some indicting parables. He's talked about the end of all things. And it's all accumulated to them doing exactly what it is that he set out to have done, which is they have come to the point that they say, we can no longer tolerate this man in our midst.
Yep, we've had it. And so it says, chapter 26, verse 1, when Jesus had finished all these sayings, he said to his disciples, you know that after 2 days the Passover is coming, and the Son of Man will be delivered up to be crucified. Then the chief priests and the elders of the people gathered in the palace of the high priest, whose name was Caiaphas, and plotted together in order to arrest Jesus by stealth and kill him. But they said, not during the feast, lest there be an uproar among the people. So this is just slimy, conniving, back room dealing, in order to trap him, in order to get him, get rid of him. It's pretty simple. It's conspiratorial and that sort of thing. And so it's pretty straightforward what's going on here. He has, like you said, Dan, accomplished what he set out to do initially when he triumphantly entered into Jerusalem. He is heading towards the cross.
Yeah, and so, you have Jesus, he's getting, we've seen this, but he's getting more and more just straightforward with his disciples about what's going on, right? So now he's even...
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's even giving them the time now. He's like, look, Passover, after that, they're going to kill me, just so you know. They're not going to do it on the Passover because Jesus knows when they're going to do this, but, and the reason they're not going to do it is because it's the Passover. They're like, hey, we got to... there's a sneaky thing here that even in this, you see this sort of like self-righteousness and false piety of the religious leaders where they're like, look, we can't do it during the Passover. One, obviously we don't want an uprising on the people, but we also have to show that we're about more important things right now. We couldn't let this take away from this most important day of the year. And so we'll get through that, and then we'll kill him.
Then we'll murder him.
So yeah, the thing I find there's not much to this. It's just telling you what's going to happen, right? But it is interesting that it seems like at some point their plans change, because if you look at 4, the whole plot is to get him by stealth and just kill him, right? But what ends up happening is they do arrest him kind of by stealth, in a sense, but then they give him a trial before the high priest, and then they send him over to Pilate, and this is a whole rigmarole where he isn't just arrested by stealth and killed stealthily. He's actually put on public trial in several venues and then crucified by the Romans. Even to the whole point where it's like, we've got this one criminal and we've got Jesus, and asking the crowds, which one of them do you want me to kill? Right? So it's like, it gets to be like this very, very, very public thing when it seems like the whole point back here in chapter 26 is for it to be like, hush, hush.
Yeah, they were hoping to do it on the stealth, but when it comes to crucifixion, I mean, there's basically no more public display of murder.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is it seems like that the original plan was not to crucify him. It was just to arrest him and take him out behind a tree and rid of the movement, right?
Well, they might be. Well, you hear them say it. They might be allowed. They're not allowed. They might be able to. Hey, maybe we'll assassinate this guy. But they're not allowed to put people to death.
No, I get that.
Yeah.
But it seems like that was the plan anyway. I'm sure at times it happened, right? Nonetheless.
Sure. But they need this to be public. I think that's that's the thing that turns.
Well, it seems like at some point, like they get their wits in their heads about them. They say, okay, we're going to have to involve the Romans at some point.
Yeah.
Because you'll hear Pilate. I mean, he'll say, "Hey, deal with it yourself." And they're like, "No, I don't think you understand. We want this man dead. We're not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
We can't do that. Like, so we need you to do it. This is why blasphemy charges, which Pilate doesn't care anything about.
Yeah.
But you have to make the other accusation, which is, no, man, this is a threat to Caesar.
It's an insurrection charge. It's an insurrection charge at the end of the day, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's right. So we pick it up at verse 6. It says, "Now when Jesus was at Bethany in the house of Simon the leper."
I love that, by the way, that Jesus is in Bethany and he's at Simon the leper's house, but obviously not a leper anymore, right? So this is still his name, but what do you think the chances are this guy has leprosy now? I think it's 0.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not for nothing, this is one of those instances you see in the Gospels that testify to the historical reliability of the Gospels, because he throws out this name, Matthew does here, Simon the leper, as if the readers would have any inclination who Simon the leper is. Mm-hmm. There's no value to doing that except to note that this is a historical figure.
Well, you're given an address. I say this all the time when you do apologetic stuff, is that the Gospels are very good at giving you the, essentially the GPS locations of where things happened.
Yeah.
And when you realize that how close this was written to the events of Jesus' life and death, these are things that can go be checked out.
That's right.
You could go talk to Simon the leper.
Yeah.
And say, did this happen?
It's also great, that Jesus, homeless. So he's always in other people's houses. But this is a great thing where it's they're there in Bethany and they're like, where can we stay? Where can we eat? You know what? I bet you the dude who I healed of leprosy has got a place for us.
That's right. Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah. No,
it's very practical, right? It's just where could we stay? You're like, I don't know. This guy used to have leprosy, now he doesn't. I bet you he got us. I bet you he'll take us in.
Healing people, both compassionate and practical.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it was Richard Bauckham makes a lot of hay out of this in the Gospels and his apologetic work for the reliability of the Gospels. He'll note that Mark mentions Rufus and Alexander, out of the blue. This happens all the time in the Gospels.
The tomb of Joseph of Arimathea.
Yeah. To your point, it's this kind of GPS, way of reporting history. That's why C.S. Lewis said, I read myth my whole life, and when I read the Gospels, this is just not myth.
Yeah.
This is reportage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, in our modern context, that's the problem with sort of Jordan Peterson's position on this stuff too, is that, this is not just the best myth ever, which is, an interesting position to take. Myth doesn't say I was at this person's house.
Well, it certainly didn't back then.
Yeah.
Now we have, novels written in such a way that are meant to suggest that this could be a real thing or whatnot. You have fiction written like that in these days, but that just didn't exist back then. That's what really separates the Gospels from even the fake Gospels that will come later.
But I do like that what you're about to see here in the house of Simon the leper, though, is the disciples start feeling their piety and self-righteousness, though.
Mm-hmm.
They're about to protest out of the needs of the poor.
Ah, yes, I know. So it says a woman came up to him with an alabaster flask of very expensive ointment, and she poured it on his head as he reclined at table. And when the disciples saw it, they were indignant with all sorts of righteous piety, saying, "Why this waste? For this could have been sold for a large sum and given to the poor." But Jesus, aware of this, said to them, "Why do you trouble the woman? For she has done a beautiful thing to me. For you always have the poor with you, but you will not always have me. In pouring this ointment on my body, she has done it to prepare me for burial. Truly I say to you, wherever this gospel is proclaimed in the whole world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her."
Well, we better get after that then. Here we go.
Yeah,
We gotta,
you know,
gotta proclaim what she's done here, boys.
indeed, she does beautiful things. She's preparing him for burial, as he notes. And there's probably an allusion here to the fact that they still don't really believe that he's actually going to be buried.
Yeah, no kidding. They still don't think he's going to be killed. I mean, this is the whole. He's trying to convince them of the reality coming ahead, and he's been trying to convince them of that for 26 chapters now, and they still don't get it. And it's what has she done? She's done a beautiful thing for the Lord, by his own words. Don't you think that it's the verse 11, for you will always have the poor with you. Man, is that used?
Oh yeah,
Opposite of what the intention of Jesus saying it here all the time. Like, it's used to sort of make Christianity about serving the poor monetarily more often than what Jesus is actually saying here, which is like, listen, I guess you could sell every good thing and give it to the poor, but they're always going to be here anyway.
Well, I've heard it. I think both sides. I hear one of two things, and I think they're both like missing the point. One is like, like, hey, the poor you always have with you. So like from this moment on, that's what this is about. Once I leave, once you do no longer have me with you, and that's all you have, then that's what you're all about now. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's what he's saying. But then the reverse is I've heard people be like, listen, doesn't matter how you treat the poor. Jesus said you'll always have them with you, and I'm like, well, I don't think that's what he's saying.
No.
I think what
he's simply saying it's not the gospel.
Well, I think it's this. You want to he's like, hey, this is what I would take Jesus' words here. If you're looking for opportunities to help the poor, you're going to have them throughout the rest of your life. You're going to have them. There's means no shortage of opportunities for you to care for the poor, and of course that's a good thing to do. It's not like the thing that he's given them to proclaim the gospel, but it's a thing that you could do. And if that's what you want to do, guess what? Like Jesus says, you'll never run out of opportunities to do it. So don't worry about it.
My bigger point is just that he specifically says in verse 13, truly wherever this gospel is proclaimed, he's simply saying your tendency has now become to make the gospel the service of the poor. Mm-hmm. And the service of the poor is not the gospel. And maybe it's just in my little world that I have run across, enough pastors in my life who make the gospel about the service of and I want to say like the left hand, let me just say it this way, the left-hand kingdom service of the poor. Because I do think the gospel is about the service of the poor with the gospel, because we are all the poor in that sense.
The poor in spirit.
Yeah, but the pious tendency of good Christian pastors is going to be to make the gospel about the service of the poor in the left-hand kingdom. Yep. And often, you can see at the expense of a lot of other things, including preaching the actual gospel, which is what this woman
and that's happened. We have many historical instances of this where organizations, relief organizations, start off with a very strong desire to proclaim the gospel while serving the poor, and eventually the gospel gets left behind, and then the relief agency just focuses on the poor.
Yeah. Now, if you're a Christian and you have no sense of within your vocation and your avocation and what you teach your family of charity, of Christian charity, that's not right either. But I don't think I think the point here is merely the reason this is going to be told forever is because he's about to go fulfill the gospel. She seems to be the only person that gets it.
Yeah.
And
Well, you're alluding to something that we found in the last century, Scott. You know, the difference between like theological liberalism and fundamentalism has often erred on one of these sides, where fundamentalists will err on preaching being the thing at the expense of charity, and theological liberalism will only emphasize the charity and downplay the significance of the gospel. And, you know, Leslie Newbigin, who was a missionary in India, had written quite extensively about the need for both things to be there, but the gospel does have to be the primary thing.
Yeah, it's primacy.
Well, I think you have a good example of this in the early church, early church,
Like the
where
Acts, the Church of Acts.
yeah, where you know the proclaimers, the preachers said, hey, we kind of need to be about that work. So they do set up these other people whose job it is to make sure that like the orphans and the widows are being taken care of and stuff, because
that's right.
They understand this thing that both of these things are needed, but that maybe the proclaimers need to not stop proclaiming so that they can deal with this other stuff. They need to put some people in place, though, because they don't want their widows that are members of their churches go, starving to death. And this is the big thing within the church context. Listen, man, like the poor you will always have with you. Also, it's like you're not going to solve every problem in the world, but like as a Christian, of course, would it be wrong if there was someone in my church that I go to?
There you go.
And I knew that they didn't have enough food to eat, and she got 3 kids.
Of course,
I am in sin if I do nothing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's what I say about Acts. When they do that, they're serving the orphans and the widows within the Christian church. Like they're not necessarily going out to the street and just finding the random Jewish orphan or widow and saying, "Let's feed you and take care of you." Now, would there be anything wrong with that? No, but they were primarily concerned with the people vocationally and avocationally with the people God had called them to serve, which is people in their congregation.
People in their life,
and this is stuff that certainly as brothers and sisters, like we are called to do, of course. Like like we are called to, if there's someone in your congregation in need, your church should step up and help them. That's
I don't mean to like tell somebody else's story here, but a person that we work with is now going out to help take care of his mother, who's having some health issues. And these health issues were first addressed by a nurse within her church congregation, because she started having symptoms at church, and that church has a network where they have a parish nurse, and that nurse was able to help her in a moment of great. That's wonderful. That's the ideal of the book of Acts when you talk about that. But again, this lady is the only one that gets that the fulfillment of the gospel is about to happen.
Maybe with the exception of Judas, who seems to be like, man, I think this guy is serious.
Feels like he needs to play his part.
Yeah, to that end, just a few more details that might make it a tad more engaging or interesting for the hearer. When Jesus says, wherever this gospel is proclaimed in the whole world, what she has done will be told in memory of her, it is, in fact, the case that this story is told in all 4 gospels. Secondly, we learn some other details in the other gospel accounts about a few of the characters here. For starters, Simon the leper was a Pharisee, and he is one of those that objects to this waste. So even the host here is not too happy about it, along with the disciples, and in particular, John tells us that the disciple that was most upset about this waste was Judas. Yeah. And John even comments on that Judas was being basically insincere, that this was, an excuse for him to justify his own greed.
Or maybe not. Like maybe we don't know the whole story of Judas. Maybe the whole story of Judas' disillusionment has to do with spending money on things that he thinks is wasteful and could have gone other places. Like at some point, this man becomes disillusioned with this whole thing.
And to that end, maybe the most significant detail that we learn about this woman is the reason Simon the leper has a problem with her isn't even because of the waste. It's because
Making a myth?
she is known as a sinful woman.
Oh, yeah.
A woman
And
of the
so
night.
he says, surely, if Jesus really was a prophet, he would know this sinful woman.
Yeah, of course.
Is, yeah. So the problem for the Pharisee in this is that a sinner is doing something like this for Jesus. The problem for Judas is the waste, quote
That
unquote.
kind of
you know.
admonition to sinner was basically reserved for women, though, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, exclusively.
Yeah. Well, tax collectors and were oftentimes synonymously called just sinners.
No, I mean that type of sinner, even if a man was participating in the same type of sin.
Oh, yes,
The
for
admonition
sure.
of that
Yes.
type of sinner, the accusation was reserved for women.
Yeah, that she was, and it's alluding to the fact that she was seen as an adulterous woman.
Yeah, well, even if Simon the leper would have had some on the side, shall we say, it wouldn't have been the same accusation.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Well, dude, when they dragged the woman caught in adultery out, there was like a glaring question of like, if you were caught in adultery, where
With
is this
whom?
guy?
Yeah.
With
Where's
whom
he
were
at?
you caught?
Where's that
Yeah.
dude at? And that dude is nowhere to be seen. The thing about Judas, though, that we do know is like Judas is a zealot, and it does seem that like Judas is like disappointed because Jesus at times like has amassed like such a huge following, and Judas has seen Jesus do things, right? I mean, like, Judas doesn't have any. He's not like uninformed about like what this man can do, and I think he views Jesus as a waste. Like it's like you're wasting this, man.
Yeah.
Like if I had what you had, like if I could teach like you and I could do miracles like you,
Yeah.
I would know what to do with it.
There
but
wouldn't
you
be
don't
a
seem
poor
to get
person
it.
within 50 miles of me.
Well, not only that, there wouldn't be a Roman within 50 miles of me
Yeah.
either, like because we would have overthrown this whole thing by now.
Yeah.
And this is this message that Jesus is putting forth, like, hey, it's fine that she poured this on me because let me tell you, boys, I'm here to die. It's just finally for Judas, it seems like he's like, all right, this guy isn't going to do the thing. Like he's not going to do it.
He's not
And
going to restore the glory to Israel the way that we had envisioned. Maybe Judas gets it even quicker than the others in this regard.
Yeah, no, I think that he starts hearing Jesus, and he's like, I don't think this guy is here to be David 2.0, overthrowing the Romans, restoring Israel to its former great. I don't think this is going to happen. Like these guys like are scratching their heads, but I'm starting to pick up what this guy's putting down, and that's not really what I signed up for.
Yeah. So, to that point about Judas, it says, then one of the 12, whose name was Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and said, what will you give me if I deliver him over to you? And they paid him 30 pieces of silver. And from that moment, he sought an opportunity to betray him.
Yeah, so this is Judas just being like, hey, this is a 3-year investment that I've given, so like I'm gonna go see what can I get? Like, can I get anything back?
What's the inflation calculation on this 30 pieces of silver?
That's a good question, Scott, and I have no clue.
Okay.
I think it's a decent amount of money.
Yeah, it seems like it would be, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you can get the impression that Judas sold him out for next to nothing, but it was a significant amount of money.
Yeah, I mean, I do get the very real impression that Judas is sort of just cashing out here. He's just like, you know what?
Got to get something out of this time.
Yeah, I mean, he's 3 years of my life. What can I get out of here? Like, this guy is obviously not good. Now, we will find out later that Judas doesn't think this is Judas thinking maybe, and you would think you should know better, maybe, I don't know. Judas doesn't think these guys are going to kill him. That is not like what he thinks. He thinks that like maybe they need to get together. Maybe these guys can talk. Maybe they can, they want to talk to him. Like let's try to have this happen.
Maybe he thinks he's going to be jailed, but I mean, he does not anticipate the fact that they're going to crucify him.
No, in fact, so much so that he's fairly shocked and horrified that this happens.
Yeah.
This is not so. His intention is to betray him, yes, but not to the point of murder. This is not what Judas thinks is going to happen.
Yeah.
And this is just him thinking probably too much of the Pharisees. Like I guess he just doesn't understand exactly how wicked some of these dudes are.
That probably is the case. Yeah.
The internet says about $350,000.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, we know whatever we read on the internet is always true and
Oh,
trustworthy.
absolutely. So take that to the bank.
Yeah, yeah. No, but I mean, it's a significant amount of dough, and
Well, they
it
buy
makes
land with it, right?
it's very practical. I mean, one of the things that I think we try and highlight on this show is just how human all the people are in the Bible. Like it's just they're acting like humans do today. There's self-interest, there's greed, there's all the same sins that you see around you, that you experience in your own life. They're committing the same exact kinds of sins and motivated by the same exact kinds of self-preservation needs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So, now verse 17, on the first day of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus saying, "Where will you have us prepare for you to eat the Passover?" He said, "Go into the city to a certain man and say to him, 'The teacher says, my time is at hand. I will keep the Passover at your house with my disciples.' And the disciples did as Jesus had directed them, and they prepared the Passover. When it was evening, he reclined at table with the 12. And as they were eating, he said, 'Truly I say to you, one of you will betray me.' And they were very sorrowful and began to say to him one after another, 'Is it I, Lord?'" That is a very significant moment for me because it tells you that all the disciples know within themselves that they're capable of being the one that might betray Jesus. So it's not just Judas here. They all are asking themselves, they're all sorrowful, and they're all asking him, "Is it me?" I hope not, but by the very asking of the question, this tells you that they recognize something inside of them is capable of doing it.
Or that they've all, I mean, think about their lives for the last 3 years. It's had to have been quite the emotional roller coaster. And as more and more of them come to the realization that this is probably not David 2.0 in the way that they thought, that has to really suck. Like,
Yeah, I mean, the disappointment and the disillusionment is beginning to set in.
yeah.
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 So he answered, "He who has dipped his hand in the dish with me will betray me. The Son of Man goes as it is written of him, but woe to that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been better for that man if he had not been born." Judas, who would betray him, answered, "Is it I, Rabbi?" He said to him, "You have said so."
I mean, that's like the worst tactical move ever. What are you doing? What are you doing? You know this guy. You know this guy knows who it is, and you're like, "Is it me?"
I mean, you got to believe that Judas is like a deer in the headlights at this moment. Like you have to, I mean, just put yourself in that room. Judas knows that Jesus knows, and yet Jesus is allowing it to happen. What's that? What did you say?
When you slink out quietly, not go up and ask him, "Is it I, Lord?"
Dude, I don't know. I know you can't hear it in the text necessarily. Like, there's no way to know. But like, Jesus saying to him, "You have said so," like to me, like it sounds so sad, man.
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
He doesn't.
Yes.
He doesn't want to say, "Yeah, it's you."
Yeah. You can't know this, but it just doesn't sound like angry to me or anything. Like it sounds sad.
Everything about the interactions between Jesus and Judas leading up to Jesus' arrest and then even Judas's response to the torture and crucifixion of Jesus is just sad. I mean, everything about it. Because you can tell that Jesus actually did love Judas.
Yeah, of course.
Like, he literally did love Judas. And so this is not something...
And I mean, I think you can get that, despite what he's done, Judas did love Jesus.
Yes, that's also true. Yeah, I mean, so the whole thing, thing is just sad.
Yeah, he's so distraught that he kills himself. Like,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hence, Jesus here, it'd be better for him not to have been born.
Yeah. Yeah, which that part is that's the part that's brutal. Like Jesus says this, like, "Hey, what's going to happen to the Son of Man is going to happen to the Son of Man." Like this is the whole point.
But your involvement in it is,
that's a bummer.
And of course, it was prophesied that it would happen.
Sure.
I mean, this is something that is a fulfillment of Old Testament prophecy that the Messiah would be, betrayed by one of his own. But it doesn't make it any less sad.
Well, and I do think that there is something about this too when as Jesus takes on like the sins of the world, like there is like things, and because I think there's some usefulness to, Jesus gets abandoned, and that's useful and a source of comfort for those who like feel abandoned. Like that, of course, like hey, Jesus knows, he's done that, and people who've been betrayed, like it is. There's a utility in being able to tell someone, or just tell to know yourself. Hey, Jesus knows what it's like to be betrayed. Like, I mean, like not just like because he took on the sins of the world, so he knows about all sin, but like he knows like on a very human level what it's like to be betrayed by somebody that he loves. Like he knows what that's like, and so this is a God who can sympathize with you. Like this is not just in your weaknesses in the sense of in your shortcomings and your sin and stuff, but in the things that are done to you too. Like where you're like, well, does God know what it's like to be alone? Yeah. Like, does he know what it's like to be betrayed by people he loves? Yeah, he does. Like, he does. He knows what it's like to have that happen in human flesh. He knows that.
Yeah.
Which is worth something.
Yeah, that is a tremendous comfort.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right, we are out of time. Next week, we will get to the institution of the Lord's Supper. I'm sure we'll have nothing to say about this.
No, we don't have much to say on that.
Yeah, so we will get to that, probably make a lot of hay out of it, and hopefully you will join us, guys. I'll see you then.
Sounds good.